Hi, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Monroe, Washington.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey guys, we've loved answering all of your questions so far. If you'd like to hear your question on the podcast, please send them to us on Instagram at wheeltalkpodcast or by email to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks.
Metronome.
We're live.
Hi.
You still have the metronome
on? Yeah, I
on?
have the metronome on.
That's annoying. I could never do that.
No, I don't know. It's auto set to start with
that.
It, and it's annoying. And I remember I used to have it set up where I just didn't start with it, and I couldn't find out how to change that when it updated. So.
Yeah. I guess metronomes are more for musicians, right?
Yeah.
Do some people sleep to metronomes?
Oh my god, I would die.
That's like listening to a clock tick in the background.
That's worse. Worse, so worse. Ugh.
Jeez. Hi, Becca.
Hi. How are you, Ryan? How was today?
I'm good. Not much happening in the clay world today. I worked all day, and then I'm in a wedding tomorrow, so we went to a kind of a rehearsal dinner get-together, super casual, at the groom's parents' house, and then had some pizza, had some ciders, played some cornhole.
Ryan texted me, he goes,
just
I had 3 ciders, and I was like, damn it, I'm not done enough for us to do this podcast while you're drunk. Nah! Because I still had an hour of
I was like, well, we haven't had a chance to podcast this week, and we're probably not going to, so let's squeeze it in while we can.
I was thinking I should apologize. I was thinking that I get on here and then I become drunk a lot.
That's why I was like, I know Becca's going to love this, so I'm just going to text her. I feel like she's going to be all for it.
I am all for it. So I think that one time you should do that to me because I do it a lot and I feel bad. But I think I do hold myself together for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, it's already wore off tonight, so. I basically got back and then photographed some pieces that came out of the kiln yesterday.
Nice.
And packed up some pots because I'm doing a show on Saturday. The wedding's tomorrow night, Friday night, so I got to leave the wedding at a late time anyways, and then get back, pack the car, and then get up for a show at 6:30 or something.
Are you a groomsman?
I'm a groomsman.
Not a groom, obviously.
I already did the groom thing.
Is being a groomsman so much easier than being a bridesmaid, I would imagine?
Definitely. The commitment is a lot lower, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's just hey, here's all the suit info. Go here during these dates. Tell them you're with this party. They'll get you fitted. Come back. So I came back this week. And then the only thing I wasn't sure of, it was...
I'm going to close my window. Keep talking.
Go close the window. Just do what you got to do. The commitment's super easy. It's hey, we're going to hang out and get together for this bachelor party and whatever on this day at this time. Come hang out and we'll drink and have some dinner or whatever, and then go get your suit and stuff. And then I'll show up tomorrow at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or something. I mean, guys getting ready takes 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I bet you the bridesmaids are showing up at 9 a.m. Ridiculous.
That's exactly what they said tonight.
Yeah, stupid.
They were we'll see you all at 9, and then guys get here about 1.
Yeah.
Well, I think they were doing some prep and stuff at the venue, so some of the folks might show up early and set up chairs and tables and stuff like that. But I'm working half a day, and then I'll take off and go over there. So
nice.
Yeah, super low stress, especially with the wedding during COVID. I was asking him today how many people they were expecting. He said there was gonna be about 100, so that's super low. And taco bar.
Hell yeah.
I think they're gonna serve them, so it's not buffet.
Right.
So
it's
pretty sweet.
Not COVID central in the tacos.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it should be good.
Good.
How about you? How was
I
your
love
day?
weddings, only for the food and the dancing.
Have you been in weddings? Any weddings?
Yeah, I don't like being in weddings, though. Being in weddings is quite possibly my idea of hell.
Yes, the bridesmaid part would be a bigger undertaking.
I've been the maid of honor before, and
Wait, I just asked if you've been in weddings, and you said no.
I said yes.
I thought you said no. Oh, you said yes. I wasn't listening. I'm sorry.
I've been in two, and two will all I be in ever more.
That was great grammar.
Yeah, no thank you. No thank you.
Oh, maid of honor planning.
It was tough. Thankfully, the second wedding was for one of my really good friends in California, my out-of-state best friend. And she knows that I do not, that's not the way I swing at all. And she was so gracious to me. She was like, you don't have to do anything. I was also the only one from out of state. She's like,
that's what I was going to ask.
Show
okay,
up.
So you weren't living in the same
Yeah,
place.
she was just like, show
just
up.
Show up the day before.
And then we'll be fine. And she was awesome. Yeah. So, but definitely not a wedding person. I'm pro-marriage, anti-wedding. But I like the food and the dancing. If there's dancing.
I don't know how the dancing stuff's going to go tomorrow. I'm not really a dancer, but yeah, when we were planning our wedding back 5 years ago now, I was like all in on it because I'm a planner. So we were like spreadsheeting it and Google Docing it.
Of course you were.
Rachel and I were both. We were probably like 50-50 on the planning. Yeah. And maybe a little more on my side, but I was on top of it. And most people are like, hands off, I don't care. And I was kind of like, hey, let's think about this, like budgeting.
You're like,
and
money.
Like, organizing it and like timelines and all this stuff. Like, who do we need to meet with and stuff like that. So
showing up? When's this person showing up? Like, I could.
Yeah. And like seating charts and all that kind of stuff.
155,000% envision exactly how your wedding went. The planning.
We have like a folder on Google Drive that's just like a wedding. And it's got all. Yeah. And I was like, Rachel, do you want to like be wedding planners after this is over? Like, would you one day like be a wedding planner together, like family thing, like have a venue and like rent it out and like offer planning services? Like, we were all for it.
I know you would be great.
And then after that, I was like, I don't know. Like, we have enough stuff going on.
Yeah, but seriously, backup plan.
It's like I'm good. Backup plan.
Yeah, no. If I ever get married, my mom literally was like, Becca, you are not allowed to elope. And I was like, screw you. I can do whatever I want. I'm like, I'm probably never going to get married anyway. But also, like, there's no way I am planning a wedding. None. Zero. Zilch. No. Like, no, we are having a party. Everybody's bringing their own food. And that's it.
Potluck.
But, yeah.
Save you a lot of money that way.
Yeah. Yeah, weddings are so expensive. Like, why spend your entire year's life savings on a wedding when you're probably too drunk or too tired to remember it?
Yeah. So busy all day.
All day. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
I don't think we got to your day. How was your day?
Oh, my day was okay. I had an update a couple days ago, and I packed up all the orders today. That was a lot. I packed up 35 orders. So
nice. Did you get a lot of like duplicate, like doubles, or did you sell a bunch of single? They were all tumblers, right?
I had 7 that were 2 tumblers each, and then I had 4 that were 3 each, and then I have 1 that's 5, and then the rest are singles. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
I would imagine those would pack pretty well because of the shape. Like, they would fit into a box pretty well once you get them next to each other and stuff.
The biggest problem is that they Y out at the top a little bit, and so it's like a 4-inch rim. And
okay.
So that's kind of, we're like 3.5, maybe 4. So that's the only bummer, is that it's a little bit wider of a rim. So the packaging 3 in a box.
So do you wrap them like? Do you wrap them like top to bottom, or do you wrap them side to side like a tube?
Oh, with corrugated?
Do you like? Yeah, with corrugated cardboard, do you wrap like over the top and around the bottom?
I didn't use corrugated cardboard this time, but if I was going to, I would wrap top around the long way with a 6-inch, and then I would wrap the other way with a 4-inch. So it's always, so there's no touching. Yeah. I might actually do it 6 and 6-inch, so it makes its own box.
I thought you said they were about 4 at the top, though. Wouldn't a 4-inch piece of corrugated?
Yeah, but you
or
don't necessarily want it to be as wide as the cardboard.
Okay, you want it the cardboard a little
bit
wider
so that it creates its own box around it, so it doesn't hit that part.
Okay.
Yeah, if it was bulged out.
Yeah, I've found wrapping them like that is easier.
If it had a belly,
especially with like bowls and stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard to wrap the bowls that are wider at the top because if you wrap them around the side, it's like wonky and they don't really.
Yeah, no. I always make sure that the whatever is round, like open at the top, the opening at the top, gets a flat piece over it first, and then you go around that way. So, and always 2 pieces of cardboard. If you guys are wondering what I'm talking about, I think I have them on my highlights on my Instagram, so you can see what we're talking about as far as packing is concerned.
So you got all those wrapped up and shipped out, or you're shipping them out tomorrow?
Yeah, I put them out for Ken to pick up. My mailman.
Nice.
Yeah, he's awesome. And let's see. Yeah.
Did you sell as many as you thought you were gonna sell?
I sold about as many as I thought. Yeah, I was hoping for a little bit more, but it's okay. I'm fine with it.
Which is about what, half or so?
Yeah, I sold about half, so I'm okay with it.
You said you kind of went all out with making them too.
And I
you
made
like 150 of them,
seconds, tons
or more
of
than that
this time. So,
did you list the seconds with this order with these as well, or did you do them separately?
I swallowed my pride. I was like, oh, I don't know if I should list the seconds just because there were so many. I had an issue with the clay. It was so bad because it was all recycled. Like, it was 100% recycle almost. So it split at the bottom of a few of the cups. Like, that was mostly the seconds.
Did those sell? Did you sell about half seconds, half of the other? Yeah.
Yeah, seconds are always popular. And honestly, I'm okay with it. I'm like, seconds, people love seconds. If you say that they're seconds and you give them a little bit of a break, people love him. So
what, for context for other people that might be wondering, what's your price on the normal and then what's your price on the second, and what exactly made it a second so that it was sellable?
Okay, price on normal is $25. And that also, my normal price, like if you were to walk into my shop, would probably be $20, depending on if you were rude to me or not. But, I'm kidding. It's usually $20. The reason I do $25 is because I do $5 flat rate shipping, and that extra $5 covers whatever's left over on the flat rate shipping. So sometimes I win on shipping, but most of the time I don't. And so I give myself a little bit of like a $5 wiggle room, and that covers the rest of the shipping and the box and everything like that. So
it's like a mental thing that they feel like they're getting a discount.
Yeah.
There's not shock.
Well, and it's so
price
much easier
when they get to the checkout with shipping.
Yeah, it's so much easier just to say everything's a $5 flat rate shipping. It's easier on the website. It's just so much easier. I'd rather just add the extra price in my product. And
if they buy multiples, you're probably gonna make a little bit more on the shipping.
Somewhat.
Or you're going to make a little more on that $5 extra on the
I think
tumbler.
the doubles, I want to say the doubles were all like $10 to ship. So I came out pretty even. Or not. No, I made...
Or you came out $5 ahead.
Maybe. But it also depends on how far away you are and stuff like that. So, for some of them.
Okay. So, $25 retail price for this update.
Yes, and then seconds price is $20. Mostly because almost all the seconds were just so minor issues. Like, they were tiny, tiny issues. Like, a tiny little sliver crack on the bottom. Like, that was it. And so...
It didn't go all the way through.
Right.
And the glaze was sealed
No,
on the
yeah.
inside
It was like,
and all that kind
so
of
if I would have tried really hard, I probably could have sanded it out. But, yeah, so that's that. Normally, I would probably sell my seconds for maybe, like, 15 as opposed to 25 if it was, like, really bad. But honestly, I'm at this point in my life right now that none of the seconds are super, super bad. I probably could have.
Do you mark a warped rim as a second? I see some people with warped pieces, and they're like, "Is this a second, or is this like fine?"
Sometimes I do, but I don't get a lot of warped rims on mugs and cups like that. The things that I get warped rims on are like cylinder mugs, and some, if they're really, really warped, then yes. If they're not super warped and they're just not round, then no, because and like sometimes the
it probably
wine
depends on
glasses,
the style of your
right.
work too. If your work was really rigid and like right angles and very like clean, then warped rims would really show themselves.
Like wine glasses sometimes warp just because of that thumbprint, and I don't worry about that because if it's just a little bit of an oval shape, then it's fine. Yeah. But like, that's pretty much it. What else? My cats walked.
Got those packed up.
My cats walked over 25 mugs yesterday.
I saw that. I saw your video and your stack of them after the fact.
Yeah.
Oh,
so many people were like, "You should just sell the mugs that are all messed up and call them the cat mugs or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, I could, but what if nobody buys them? Then I have 25 of these really shitty cups."
And then you just have this memory every time you put them in the bisque kiln and take them out of the bisque kiln and put them glazing and then take them out of the glazing.
And then the loss of money that everybody was like, "I would have bought those." I'm like, "But would you? No. Let's be real.
You need to be like, all right, if you want them so bad, pay me now, and then I'll give you...
Yeah, that would have been a good idea.
Like, pay them up front, and then that would motivate you to actually finish them. Because you know they're already paid for.
The video was literally of me throwing them into a pile. Like,
right.
No hope for the cups.
Right. I almost want to see... I want to see someone taking that to the extreme of, like, any comment that people would make to, like, salvage pots. Like, imagine the scale and the time and investment it would take to take every failed pot and make it a planter, or every failed pot and take it through the process, or try to fix, like, what is the investment that's lost.
Oh, yeah.
Doing all of those things that people say you could do to salvage a piece.
Just imagine the space. I'm like, God, the space, like, so much space.
I'm more thinking the time, like, the time it takes to just smash it and forget about it and recycle it is so much smaller than the mental time and the effort that goes on past the throwing process.
And also, it's like, those things, especially because people saw the video of me, like, smashing them, they have that memory in their, like, brain. If nobody has that memory and you're just like, my cat stepped on this, they're not going to be like, okay.
If it was a plate or something, that would be different, because it would just be an imprint.
Yeah.
But it's not something that totally messes with the function and just makes them all wonky.
Yeah. What are we talking about today?
All right. Are we doing the long question?
Yeah, let's do the long one. We'll try to hit a couple questions, maybe.
All right. Yeah, so we got this question from Instagram on our Wheel Talk podcast Instagram account. Send them there if you have any for us. This one came from Carlotta823. It said, I got into ceramics/wheel throwing right before COVID hit. Got through one course and just started a second. Enjoyed it enough that I found a used kiln, and my fiance was nice enough to surprise me with a new wheel a couple weeks ago. I have a tiny studio set up, but I keep wondering, no matter all I practice, should I still take classes for better personal instruction? I barely had the time to learn anything, and now it's been months. So that's kind of the situation she's in. And she also added on in the message that she's local to me and lived in Southgate, which is where I live, up till like last year.
Oh, that's cool.
Maybe I'll see her at some point in the future, or she'll stop by and see the studio and get some ideas for her studio. So
yeah.
Well, all right. So how do we want to approach this? It sounded like
Baker Hunt.
Actually, she said her first class was at Baker Hunt.
Oh shit, man.
So maybe. Actually, you know what? Maybe she. That's funny. I didn't realize that, but maybe that's what she meant. Maybe she meant she just started at Baker Hunt back in the winter of 2020.
Okay.
Maybe that's what it was. Okay. All right.
Ryan's
so
connecting
that's
dots.
where she's at. I think she literally just started learning.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it looks like
Okay.
she says.
Yeah, so if you jump in, you just start learning, but now all of a sudden you have a used kiln and a wheel. You have a tiny studio space. Where do you go from here? Do you recommend she stay in classes and take some instruction?
My vote is yes.
I vote yes too. And then do we want to talk about why and what you get out of working somewhere that you don't have to worry about every part of the process, like firing kilns and mixing glazes and stuff like that?
Right, yeah. You go first. I want to hear what you have to say.
So it depends on what kind of studio you're at. If you are talking about working out of like Baker Hunt's a little bit different than like a full-on clay studio because you're only paying for an 8-week class and you're there one day, 3 hours at a time for 8 weeks.
Is there any studio
There's
time?
no open studio. There's no open studio time outside of that. Since COVID's happened, they haven't had any open studios. Before that, they did have, I want to say 2-hour open studios twice a session.
How much are the classes?
And they were more. They just upped them to $175.
Oh, that's not bad.
So they're still really reasonable, really cheap for 8 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say.
So there's no open studio time, and included in that is 25 pounds of clay, and all the glazes and tools and stuff that you need. You can buy more clay if you need to. So if we're talking about that kind of situation, I mean, it also depends on how much time you could dedicate to it. So if you're talking like, hey, I'm not getting enough studio time, or maybe you've got to commute 30 minutes to a studio to take classes, that could factor in. It depends on how driven you are and like what you want to make. But I would say definitely work out of a studio because you have access to a resource in the instructor that if you want to get more value out of the class, you can, besides just the hands-on or the resource to answer questions when you are struggling with making certain forms, you also have a resource in asking them questions about like, hey, I have a kiln at home. How do I go about getting it hooked up electrically? And then we can tell you like, here's some people that you might be able to contact. Here's an electrician, or, you know, this studio offers electrical setup services and maybe you can go there to get set up. Or what glazes are these here? I really like this glaze.
Yeah.
And then you can be like, what cone does it fire to? Or what are cones? Or can you explain that? What's a bisque fire? Like, you have access to someone on a weekly basis that you can ask questions that hopefully, if you have a good relationship with, they don't feel like they're being used just for asking a bunch of questions.
I mean, that's what they're
and
paid
taking
for.
time away from the other students. But I mean, yeah, that's what I get paid for, to teach. So I would say use your curiosity to ask the questions that come to mind. Maybe write them down if you're just outside of class. Write them down.
Do write them down.
Definitely write them down. And you know, you can still ask people if you're in your own studio. You can ask people on Instagram or ask other ceramicists near you, but you're kind of limited. I mean, it's kind of something that you need to be able to talk to someone in person about, or like call them up. It seems a little weird to like reach out to someone on Instagram and like ask them and then say, hey, can you tell me about cones? But I mean, there's also like YouTube and stuff like that. Yeah. So there's resources out there, but I think having someone to troubleshoot with is going to be way more valuable than trying to do everything yourself in your own studio.
Yeah.
What do you think? What else do you get out of it? Or
I agree. I worked out of a community studio for 2 years, maybe like 2 years, 1.5, before I like, okay, when I got my wheel until I left the studio was like a year and a half. So, like, I was throwing at home and transporting pots. And,
So did you rent space there or did you rent kiln firings?
no, it was like, I'd still go to classes and stuff and still do stuff in the space, but they let me bring in pots that I made at home. So,
nice.
and they were like 8-week classes, but they were like $200 and something. And, because there was studio time and all that stuff. Yeah, I definitely 155 2020% think that classes are so valuable and teachers are so valuable, especially in ceramics, because you're not just dealing with painting and I mean, painting you should go to classes too, but like there's no heat, electrical, chemical elements involved. You know, like if you got something on the glaze end wrong and you had no idea why, like that could ruin a piece of equipment. Do
you mean you're using glazes that aren't rated for that cone, or you mix your own?
Like
and you
anything.
Forget a material or something like that.
You don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of or back off of. You know, like be like, hey, I'm gonna start doing my own glazes. Are these okay? If you don't have that, and of course you can find it online. I'm not saying you can't, but you can literally ruin $1,000 pieces of equipment because of that. You know, you're not working with things that don't have, like, I'm not ragging on painters, by the way. I'm just going to use this as an example. Painting, you're using a canvas and a brush, okay? And the paint. The canvas and the brush and the paint, depending on the cost of each item, is if you ruined a canvas, you could either paint over it, or it cost you $20. Who cares? If you did something wrong to your wheel that you didn't realize, or, you know, something happened, that's $600.
Yeah.
It's
probably harder to mess up your wheel, but
right.
Or kilns is probably the more risky
but
part.
if you put the wrong glazes in your kiln, you're ruining the shelf, the kiln, potentially the electrical. That's I mean, at base level, that's probably $2,000. If it's the electrical involved in that too. So, yeah, I mean, and that's assuming that it's a new kiln that costs more than $700. But if you get a cheaper one, then, you know, whatever. But yeah, I do, and on top of that, the community that you get with a class is so important. Not only is it important, for your mental health, if like in your creative health, but it's important for your ideas, and the things that the other students are doing spark ideas in you that you would have never gotten all alone in your basement. You know, like,
right.
Would you have started carving those mugs if you hadn't started, like, taught at Baker Hunt?
Probably not. I did it because it allowed me to
the clay under it,
focus on some different. The clay was different, but I also had access to their underglazes, which underglazes can be costly if you're buying a pint of it. And if I don't even know what I'm going to do, I just started painting underglaze on and then carved through it. So I was doing it because I'm throwing fewer pieces teaching for 3 hours a week. And then it's also like a little body of work that I can do that I'm not worried about selling.
Right.
I'm not worried about efficiency and making sure I'm making only mugs and stuff like that to restock, because that's what I need. I'm more like experimenting and having fun. Yeah. So it kind of gave me a little time break and vacation every week to make something different.
Mean, it's like doing homework, you know? You go to class and you learn all the things, and then you go home and do homework, and you're throwing all these pots and you're developing your style, but then when you go back to class, if your style, like, you aren't going 4 steps back, you're only going 1 step back because that week you had time to, like, practice on what you were doing. You get to class and then you're like, oh, I'm doing this things, and then the teacher's like, maybe you should do it this way instead of this way. And you're like, oh, I never would have thought of that. Well, you probably would have thought of it, but it probably would have been 4 weeks too late. And, you know, like...
Or it would have taken you 50 more pots to realize it, or...
And so I definitely think there's a lot of value in classes. Of course, there's a ton of people that have been self-taught. Tons of people have been self-taught. And if you can't afford it, then there's, you know, obviously... doing it by yourself and doing YouTube videos, but then even then I would recommend getting on a group like Clay Buddies on Facebook, where there's a community of people that can help you with ideas, or you can look at ideas and see what people are asking and stuff like that.
That can also be overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming. It can be very
studio, and you're asking, as you have simple questions. I mean, you'll get 100 different opinions and answers, and so
yes, I did
take that with a grain of salt.
Like, I did a question a couple days ago, and I was gonna take it down, but then I didn't, and I don't know why I didn't take it down.
Was it the math one?
Me, man. Okay. Well, and thank you, Ryan, for coming to my rescue, and also for having the correct answer. Unlike some people who thought that I should have 32 ounces, but where I see where the math was coming from. So what I was trying to figure out was what my volume of a cup should be wet. So, like, when I throw it on the wheel, how much water should go?
How much fluid ounces? Yeah. When it ends up, I want it to end up
22 ounces,
this many fluid ounces.
I was trying to figure out how many fluid ounces should be in there. And, like, most everybody was like 25. It's like 24.94 or something like that. Like 25. And then there were a few that were like, no, it should be 32, because there's some weird math equation that I don't understand. But
it was talking about volume or something.
Yeah, I was talking about like volume and stuff like that, and
it's like, how the hell do you mathematically figure out volume of the inside? Like, she's talking about liquid ounces.
Yeah, no, the math, it made sense, but it didn't make sense. I'm not I'm bad at math now, but and so a lot of people were like 32, and then it ended up being 25 is okay. I think that actually 26 would be better, but and so, yeah, I don't know. It's just like so many different answers, and then you can get way more confused that way. But also, if I have a really serious question, I'm pretty straight on asking. I did ask a few people beforehand, and I thought Ryan was working, so I probably wouldn't have asked had I just texted Ryan.
Well, also, some people want to throw their 2 cents in there, and like, it's fine. Like, right answer, wrong answer. I was just answering exactly what you asked. What are the fluid ounces? And I did the simple math that came to the answer. So I don't know if they were overcomplicating it, or if they were just trying to one up and say, like, actually, if you want to get perfect with it.
No, I don't think that was the case. It was a totally different answer. It was 32 ounces versus 25. And so, and me being my Potter brain that I'm like, I've thrown a lot of 22 ounce cups, and I'm pretty sure it's never been 32 ounces.
That's like a stein. That's
huge. Yeah, so I would say maybe a 32 ounce cup would end up being like 25, 26 ounces, but I'm not sure. So, but that's, you know, like I said.
Yeah, there are resources like that you can tap into.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So how would you? Yeah, when I was learning and getting all that information, I've actually, since I graduated from college, I've never worked out of a community studio. Mm-hmm. I've always had my own home studio. But before that, I was working out of community studios during summer break, winter break in high school. And I was basically getting my feet wet with throwing. Yeah. So I was getting a lot of practice in throwing, making shitty handles that were tiny, that didn't function, that looked horrible, and making a bunch of different forms, learning how to throw off the hump.
Yeah.
Using their glazes, finding out what glazes they had that I liked. You know, they did different firing methods. I think they did gas firing at one studio, and then when I went to college, I was, you know, working out of their studio, and I understood more about like electric kilns and, you know, glazes and mixing glazes. I think I might have shadowed somebody mixing glazes, or we mixed glazes in my like primitive firing class, I think we made a glaze from like a base of three ingredients, and so I learned about glaze mixing and like powders and silica and like face masks and stuff like that, respirators. And then like I learned how to load a kiln, because as a wheel throwing class, we were making a ton of pots, and there were like 25 students in there. We had to load a gas kiln, and I was one of the students that took on like loading this kiln one week. So I packed the hell out of it, and that's kind of where my packing went. And you know, you kind of get used to what fits where. Bowls go here, mugs fit around there. Like, I think that's where I got my kiln packing skills. And then I learned about how gas frying worked and wood firing, and how to make pots that worked well for wood firing, or you know, how glazing techniques might look cool for this gas firing, or you know, layering and stuff like that. So I feel like I learned a little bit of the kiln stuff there, and like loading kilns, but I didn't. And like cones, I think we learned about cones there too in college. And I might have taken one more community studio class during, I think, winter break or summer break during college, when we weren't able to get into the studio as students. So I also just got more throwing in, and you know, late nights at the studio, because you have access to it 24 hours, and just getting a lot of practice in that way. So I think the kiln firing and that is the main learning curve for people that have their own studio. If you are brand new to pottery, besides the whole making thing, like, you're going to struggle with making as well. But the kiln firing is the biggest learning curve. Yeah. Especially if you don't have a electric kiln that you can set it and forget it. But no kiln is set and forget it, because you need to know what's going on, and you need to like know how to read what happened in that firing. So even today, like, I'm still tweaking stuff with kiln firings, and I've been doing this for a while
set it and forget
in my own
it.
studio. Yeah.
But I've decided that unofficially, and this is going to make me sound cocky, but I'm exempt from all the kiln situations, because I don't know why it works for me. I thank the Lord and move along, because I don't think that if it was all messed up, I think that I would probably not have the patience to fix it. But
how was your early on kiln firing stuff? Did you worked out of a studio? Did you fire kilns and stuff at those kind of studios at all, or did you not fire anything until you had your
in
own?
college, I helped load and unload all the time, because we had gas kilns and then we had bisque and stuff like that. So I would help load and unload those all the time. At Bruning, no, never. I'm a visual learner, so I watch them load plenty of times. And but
is that like you just saw that they were doing it that day and you just kind of stuck around and like watched a little bit?
And so the thing about Bruning is that it's a business, right? It's kind of like mine, whereas the students actually come second. You know, they kind of come first, but really they come second. Like, they're going to get their pots in the kiln first, and then the students' pots get put around the business pots, right? So that's the kind of the difference. Right. So there's no way to kind of like load kilns and unload kilns and all these things. And I mean, I would jump in and help a little bit when they're cold and stuff, but yeah, I the first kiln that I ever fired was a bisque kiln, and it was so quick, and I had no idea how to fire a bisque at all. I learned almost everything from YouTube as far as kilns go, but the first one I ever fired was a bisque kiln, and it like turned off in like 4 hours, and I was like, "There's no way that's right." And
yeah.
And so then I was like, there's no way. And so then I was like, well, obviously the cone's wrong. And so I just like flipped it up and turned it on again for like another 3 hours. And I think I got it to about cone 6. So.
With a bisque kiln?
Yep.
So did you figure out what was wrong? Was it the timer? Did the timer not get turned up to?
I just did not wait long enough. Like, it was a manual kiln. I think I put it on low for like maybe an hour, and the next setting I did for like an hour, and then the next one I did for like 2 hours. It was just a shit show. And it was a tiny kiln too, so they do take a little bit faster. But yeah, yeah, it's like things like that, you know, that you and I went back and I was like, Larry, what did I do wrong? And he was like, well, and then I think they wrote down a schedule for me. I was like, try this. And so I did
Nice.
that. And like, I would have never had that if I hadn't been going to the studio. And even though it was like I wasn't loading kilns or anything, I still had people to like bounce ideas off of and get critiques on. Like Larry, we would set my pots out and he would be like, well, this one sucks and this one's good. And, you know, like there was a lot of your base is too thin here, your glaze doesn't work here, that, you know, your piece is too complex for how complex your glaze is. There was a lot of that. So, yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was just the creative aspect and like, not maybe creative, but like learning your style, like the sense of style, in the studio.
Through repetition.
Right, especially because in studios like that, there was like 70 students. Like, there's a ton of students.
Holy crap.
At the time. And you want to make something completely different than those people. You know, like, I was trying to make stuff that nobody else was making. And so that also pushes you to another level where you're not just copying everybody else. You're trying to figure out new styles. And
everybody's using the same glaze.
Yeah, everybody's using the same glaze. So like how are you making your pieces different? You know? So yeah.
That's a good little sample size to test your abilities and your challenge you to. I mean, you do need the fundamentals of learning how to make certain forms and get the basic shape of a bowl and other things that are going to look very similar to everybody else when you start because you're learning.
Yeah.
But yeah, pushing beyond that. I was looking at the price. So we'll say you're paying $200 for a membership for a class. $250. That adds up to, we'll say you do, I don't know, how many do you do a year? We have 8 weeks and we have 4 a year.
Yeah.
With some breaks in between. So
and I don't necessarily think you need to be there for the whole time either. I mean, like, you could take 2 classes, like get up to the intermediate class or whatever, and then peace out.
Yeah. So you might invest $250, 2 classes, $500. I mean, it depends on what value you get out of it. What questions you ask, what your, some of the repetition of making certain forms.
Yeah. If you're not going to show up,
you can do on your own.
Like, if you're not going to show up, don't pay for it, And
you mean physically show up on time for when the teacher's there?
Yeah.
Or
like, if you're going to be like...
I mean, you should definitely do that.
I know, but like, I have students that like never showed up for classes and stuff. And also never showed up for studio time. So, and they're like, well, why am I not getting good? I'm like, you're doing this like once. Of course you're not getting good.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
You've done it 9 hours. Total. Like, Total. Yeah.
Yeah. And make a lot of pieces and save some, don't save some crappy ones and test glazes on them, learn about
like
what glazes you like.
I think that if I was in the learning situation where I had a wheel and maybe a kiln at home, I would potentially, I'm not even sure I would use the kiln for the first like while if I was still taking classes. Oh man, I was gonna try and reach something but I can't. I don't think that I would even use the kiln for a little bit. I'd probably use, like, let's say I was taking classes at Baker Hunt. What I would do is throw the shit out of things during the week at home. Just throw. Don't keep anything. Like, nothing.
I don't know that I could do that.
Okay, well then keep, like, only the good pieces.
Imagine you're starting, though. Is it easy to tell someone barely starting that has... How many pots do you have under your belt? How many pots have you made in the life of your making?
Like 10,000.
10,000? 20,000?
But, like, here's what I'm saying. Hear me out, okay? I would potentially not keep anything at home for the first couple of months, and I would keep everything at Baker Hunt. So, like, while I'm in class, while I'm really focusing, I would potentially use that and keep all of those pieces. You'll know, like, there's going to be a point where you're like, I can keep this. But, like, I would potentially not keep anything from at home. That way I could reuse the clay and recycle, learn about recycling, and then kind of get that. And then at class, like, use what I've learned during the week and really apply that, and then use all of the facilities at Baker Hunt. That's what I would do. And yes.
I don't know that I could do that. I think even as, I don't know.
You can't
maybe
do
it's just
that?
the mentality. I could not do that. As a beginner, I could not make for 3 or 4 hours and throw everything away and recycle it. I don't know. For me, mentally, it's hard to see the value when there's no end result. I know there's value because there's learnings and there's intangible value there.
I guess also
but if you don't save stuff, then
I guess also it's like, what's the end goal? Is the end goal to be like a really great potter? Is the end goal to just have a better mental health moment and like have a relaxed moment and just be chilling out? Because if you're chilling out and like doing stuff, then yeah, keep it. But like if you actually want to like learn and like, I guess to me, I would be like, okay, I'm paying money at Baker Hunt and I'm going to use that money and really make all the good things there, and then I'm just going to throw away the clay at home just for a couple months and just get, like, that's how you get good. You just throw things, and then that teaches you a sense of, like, not attachment. You know, that teaches you how to be okay with throwing away 25 pots that your cat stepped on. Like, you know.
I feel like it takes a lot of pots to get to that point, too.
It does, but
it's
that's
hard,
the beginning.
It's hard to tell someone that's brand new to say, you need to throw that in the bucket and recycle it.
But that's the beginning, you know? Like.
But I don't know. Maybe it depends on the personality.
Well, maybe you should have a little self-control.
But that also some people may get more value out of seeing finished work so they can see the actual process of progression with finished pieces, or
well, then throw all your pieces, let them dry,
trimmed pieces and like bone dry pieces so that they can see the progression versus like, I don't really know because I can't visually see. Like you said, you're a visual learner. So if you don't have things to compare, then could you really see
then I've changed my mind. So, see what we did there? We talked about it, and now I've changed my this also is a direct relationship to having people in your life that can challenge the way that you're thinking, like, say, a teacher. I changed my mind. So this is what I propose. While you're home, you throw all your pieces and you trim them, because I forgot about trimming. Trimming is a necessary learning point. So you trim them, right? And then at the end of that week, you pick 5 pieces that you loved and that were really good. And then you trash the other ones. Nice. And then you recycle that clay. How about that?
That's good. Plus, if you're recycling clay that's almost bone dry or like a lot drier, it's going to be easier to recycle it.
And you learn how to recycle. And, I mean, that's a good compromise, right? I just think that
I think that's good.
Because then you're going to, like, you have a goal for at the end of the week. Maybe if you throw in 25 pieces, you want to only keep 5. If you throw in 50, you want to keep 10. You know, but that way, also, I know so many people that have kept all of the shitty pieces, and they just give them away to all their friends, and they're like, bleh. You know? At some point, you have too many shitty pieces.
I like that compromise. I think that's probably a better way to go. Plus I don't know, I think you're going to be trimming through pieces.
Yeah.
You're gonna trim stuff that's too soft.
And how many planters?
You're also gonna like use. Yeah. You're also gonna make clay lugs to like hold your pieces on the coils, to hold your pieces on the wheel, and they're gonna be too dry, and your thing's gonna flip off the wheel, and you're not gonna have it centered, and
there will be failures.
All that, like, you're gonna have a lot of those, so maybe those just be one of your 25 pieces that get scrapped anyway, so you don't feel like, you know what, I'm only getting to 5. That's now my end pieces that I have to pick from at the end are a little bit fewer,
and that still teaches you how to let go as well, because the biggest thing that I think actually learning at the beginning and towards the end is how to let go.
and not feel like you have to fix everything, or
Keep
like,
everything.
I see this crack forming, can I fix it?
Right. Yeah. Because we just talked about it. Our time versus, like, if you kept all the pots that you messed up. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
And how you're like, that'd be a lot. And it would be a lot. And so I think that, yeah.
And it's, I don't know, when you hear other potters that have been doing it for a long time and they're like, just scrap it, it's hard to be like, but I want to keep it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's probably better for your process to just
scrap it. It's so good. It's such a good learning experience too. I cannot say that enough. Learning how to throw away pots is so important.
Some of the struggle with our students, I teach an advanced class, and they've taken this class probably longer than I've been at Baker Hunt.
Do any of
they've
your
probably taken it at
students
least
have
8 to 10
wheels?
times. I don't think so. One of my students did not come back after COVID because of health risks or whatever with her immediate people. So she does have a wheel at home, and she has a kiln at home. So she was throwing stuff at home and firing a few things. She had like a really small kiln. I don't know, probably 3 cubic foot or something like that, like a really small one.
A baby kiln. And
she was kind of learning how to fire. And we actually did go through some of this process of talking about, hey, I'm going to fire my first biscuit kiln. What do you recommend? Or, I got some cones, got the kiln sitter. Like, what's a good time that I would expect? And then I was telling her, like, hey, when you're doing the glaze firing, you can ramp that baby up quick because you're not worried about blowing pieces up. You're not going to blow up pieces in a glaze firing if it's already bisque fired. So I was like, hey, you can like kick it up, like turn it up 1 hour for low, 1 hour for medium, and then like crank it up to high, and then just like coast until it's done. And like you don't have to check it every so often because it's gonna.
I'm gonna interject. If you have a cone 8 kiln, you don't do that if you're going to cone 6. Go slowly at the beginning, just so you know.
What's a slow one like?
I mean,
2 or 3 hours at the low.
I would maybe do 2, like 2 hours low, 2 hours medium, maybe, and then kick it up. Yeah, just because when you have a cone 8 kiln and you're firing into cone 6, you're pushing it almost to the max. You're like, that's like if you're driving a car and the max speed is 200 miles per hour and you are going 185, that is what you're doing, as opposed to if you have a car and the max speed is 300 miles an hour and you're going to 200, So,
so you're saying don't put as much stress on the elements too quickly?
On a lower kiln. I mean, I don't think you should put too much stress on the elements regardless, but I do all of my firing slow to medium now. After learning, I used to do them all fast, but after learning about it a little bit more and how much I don't like to change elements, I've been doing them slow to medium. So, but yeah,
Is someone that has a fresh kiln that doesn't fire a lot? Is that?
No, it's probably not that big of an issue.
Habit,
but still, you might still get better firings from it, more consistent firings from it too. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. So the students that I have are kind of the issues they're having are with glaze results. Yeah. The glazes at Baker Hunt, they're not mixing them, so they could be completely different session to session because I don't know that they're using specific gravity, so they're not exactly the same. They could be more watery. Right. Like, oh, this one's like really thin because they're watering it down so much that they don't want it to run on the shelf, but it's like negatively affecting because they can't be confident in dipping it for 3 seconds and it's going to be the same thickness this session as it was 2 sessions ago.
Yeah.
But they also cycle in new studio techs every year or every year and a half, so the way they mix glaze might be a little different than the last person. So
God, they need to just invest in advancer shelves.
That's where some of
literally saved my life as a teacher. I'm like, sure, it might run. Oh well, and I just stick it on the shelf, and I'm like, they will learn their lesson. Yeah. It'll be fine. And if it doesn't run, fantastic. But it's the best.
So yeah, that's where some of the frustration comes in because they're like, hey, I'm using this glaze. Why did it come out like this?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And it's like, I mean, I know they fired a cone 5.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I know. I don't load the kiln. The studio tech loads the kiln.
Right.
And, you know, it's, yeah, that's where most of the frustration comes in. And maybe this could be part of, you know, at what point would you decide that maybe it's time to
leave
to go?
The coop. Fly the coop. Fly the coop. Flew the coop. Leave the nest.
Depart the coop. I was trying to think of the right tense of that too. Flot the coop.
Depart the coop.
Flew the coop.
Flew the coop.
I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know.
Flee the coop.
When is the right time? I think the right time is when you feel confident enough in kiln and glaze abilities. Not even throwing abilities. You can learn throwing all on your own, but if you're going to do the whole package, you need to be confident in kilns and glazing. Because you can learn throwing from YouTube videos. You can.
And with enough practice, you can figure it out. And
I mean, you can even learn
a lot of the throwing comes
from
down to
YouTube, but you won't have that feedback.
Yeah. And it might be hard to actually get some of that kiln knowledge unless you can say, hey, can I come shadow? Can I come in when somebody's loading a kiln?
Yeah, so this is your invitation. Call Ryan.
Be like, hey, when are you loading a kiln? Can you let me know?
I know. I've told a lot of my students that we're going to do that. And in a couple, in a month, we're going to get all the members in and we're going to load the kiln because I want all of them to know how to load. We have a weird situation, especially with COVID. Nobody's been around, but I want everybody to know how to load the kiln and unload the kiln. And I want everybody to know how to mix a glaze and what thickness and stuff like that. Because a lot of them do. They know little bits and pieces. Like Ellen can unload and load, but not not all of them do. They're in at different times, and so yeah, we're definitely gonna have member meetings with that stuff involving. But yeah, yes.
There's also something that factors in with either. Maybe you can't commit to spending time in a home studio because of other obligations, and having a studio that you go to for 3 hours is like a dedicated time that you know you can focus on this because you've paid for it already.
Buddy.
So that could be hard. I mean, there's a friend of mine here that, she has kids. She has 2 or 3 kids at home, and she has a studio at home, and she was talking about teaching her kids during the school day and stuff, remote learning, and she's like, I can't find time to go in the studio because I can't be this far away so that I'm out of reach, and these technologies they're doing is so much to do. So even in that situation, maybe you're at home and you have kids. Your kids don't see you as away, focusing on something, or in the studio as a do not distract mode.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and also I had a friend, my friend Krista, she and Christina both started doing classes, and they used that as their Friday night out. Classes were on Friday, and then we'd all go out and go to Fred's on Friday night after class. We'd drink, we'd eat Asian nachos and wings, and that was the thing, right? Even after I had a home studio, I would come 25, 30 miles to the class on Friday night so we could hang out, and that was that was
your dedicated social time.
My dedicated social
as
time,
well
and
as
it was fantastic, and it was great for them too. They didn't have to be around their kids. Their husbands babysat, or they didn't babysat because they were their kids. Their husbands took care of the kids, and it was just you might need that time. You may need the social interaction. Think about that too. And
right.
I don't know about you, but sometimes I would be willing to pay $1,000 for a little bit of mental health. So
that's true.
Time, the money that you spend can be worth it, especially if, find a friend and go with a friend. So.
Yeah, and actually the class that I teach, there is a mother-daughter. There's another mother-daughter. Well, this past session there was, but she's a teacher, so she won't be coming back this next session. And then there was a friend of that group, and then there's another friend of that group. So there's like 6 women that know each other that are either related or family friends or whatever. And then there's a few others that have just been coming back consistently, and they get off work and they like make some berry bowls for some family or gifts or whatever, and
gosh,
it just becomes their regular.
I really can't
deal.
like see any disadvantages to not being in a class, like, or disadvantages to being in a class.
Unless you're worried about the money.
I guess the money, but even
part,
then, like,
I think is the main factor.
Unless like the members there drove you absolutely nuts, like if the classmates drove you absolutely nuts, but like
or if your pieces came out like blown up or terrible, or
I guess, but even then, like having the people, I remember going to class and going to studio time at the Bruning studio, and it was just so fantastic, and like I loved the people, and every time you went, you saw somebody else, and you got to catch up. We laughed so much, and like talked about life, and it was fantastic, and I don't know, it's so good. I miss it.
Miss the studio.
I mean, I have my own, so we do the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah. I guess now that we talk about it like that, I'm like, well, I mean, I still go to a studio once a week for teaching, but I'm like, I really appreciate my home studio too, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would not do without the home studio, and now I'm thinking, man, am I more introverted than I think? Like I'm probably more on the introverted half of the extrovert of the halfway line.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love throwing by myself all alone, like during the day. But you're talking to somebody that is so introverted that was the only time that I would see people. So, as
well as I feel guilty for taking time to watch an episode of Netflix. So it's like if I'm in my studio, I can focus and I can feel productive and feel like I'm accomplishing something, and that kind of thing. So that factors into my home studio situation, as well as I'm frugal as hell. So the money part is amazing.
If you can't tell, he's been thinking about the money the whole time.
I have all of the studio to myself, so I can organize it how I want. I can clean it or not clean it as much as I want. I don't have to clean the splash pan at the end of every throwing session and lose 15 or 20 minutes, and like that's nice. But I also have all the other obligations of.
But honestly,
reclaiming clay and mixing glazes.
I see all these kids that are like throwing at home by themselves right now because of COVID and all these things, and none of them clean their splash pans. Like, oh my God. I do feel like that gave me something at the studio when I was there. Like, you had to clean up every time after, and like now whenever I throw, no matter what, I always clean up the splash pan. If I have a splash pan, I always clean up the splash pan. And
you also have a communal like dump bucket area.
Yeah, I do. But I like see all these kids with like all of the stuff around their splash pan, and I'm like, clean your splash pan. Clean your wheel. Don't trim with wet things in your splash pan. Like, like my internal like mom thing.
Yeah, that's the go-to. Like, oh my gosh, you're missing out on all the great things about trimming. That it's so easy to clean up with a dry splash pan.
Yeah, but I mean, to each their own. Obviously, I just can't handle it. But I also don't have a splash pan, so my wheel keeps pretty clean. But around it, obviously, it doesn't keep super clean. But the walls are white with clay.
Oh, I was gonna say. Not anymore.
Yeah.
There was some other point I was going to make, but I can't remember what it was.
I'm sorry, I probably interrupted you. We were talking about money.
I can't remember. Money.
Money.
Yeah, the money's worth it. It's hard to. I don't know. I mean, the equipment that you need, and just
at least put 6 months in.
I mean, you've also got to. I mean, you've got a kiln and you got a wheel. That's like, that is big equipment investment, but also you're gonna need to buy a bunch of other shit.
Yeah. The glazes.
Like there's gonna be a lot of extra stuff.
A banding wheel, like what Ryan needs right now.
You have a freaking wheel. What do you need a banding wheel for?
You need a banding wheel for your carved pieces.
So Becca's gonna buy me a banding wheel, buy her tumbler so she can gift me a banding wheel.
Maybe I will. There's cake stands on Amazon for like $20 that are high. Cake wheels, spinning wheels.
Yeah, there's some instructional things of how to make stuff like that are cheap.
You know you'd spend the same amount of money on the products, like on the materials, as you would to buy one.
What was that?
You're like, there's a DIY way to do it. Just go out and buy one. You're going to spend the same amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, I would, but I mean, I do have a DIY way. I'm just using a pretzel container that's elevated enough that I sit it on top of my wheel and spin the wheel or turn the piece. Damn, I can't believe I forgot what I was going to say. There was some point at the very end that I was like...
Oh, should we try and jog your memory?
It's just how things go, I guess.
Maybe it wasn't important.
Maybe not. Apparently not. It left my brain.
Do you know what?
Not enough.
I learned is that... Okay, so I have ADHD or ADD or whatever you want to call it. And I learned that there's this thing that ADHD people have that if you don't see anything, you forget it. So, like...
See what? Like, something that you need to do if you don't see something?
Yes, if you can't, like, physically see it. So, like, I'll give you an example. Last week, this lady brought in a box of pieces for the paint your own pottery, and they needed to be glazed. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's no problem. And I put all of the pieces that I needed for that week that I needed to glaze on a table, and I left those in the box. I 150% forgot that the box was there. I forgot what the box was for. I thought it was just a box. I did not know that there was stuff inside. And then today I was like, oh, why is this box here? And I went to move it and I was like, oh no, I was supposed to fire these 2 days ago. And so then I had to text her and tell her that they would be ready on Saturday. But I completely forgot that they were there. I like blanked the whole thing. I didn't even realize it until today.
So what's the right solution to that when that interaction happens in the future? So you do remember.
The right solution is to take the items out of the box immediately so that you can see it. They use the example of, like, if you have something in a refrigerator that you want to eat, don't put it in a drawer that is not clear, like opaque, the old refrigerators. Like
if you want to eat an apple for lunch, put it on the middle shelf that's visible instead of like keeping it in the apple drawer or the
exactly.
drawer.
Like put it on the shelf that's visible, or else you won't see it again, and you'll forget it's there. And I do that all the time, and I didn't even know that was a thing. And I was like, oh.
Well, you said you're a visual learner too, so it jogs your brain. So as soon as you saw the pieces, you remembered what the pieces were for, besides just seeing the box.
But when I went to get the pieces that were literally right next to the box. Like, I'd set all the other pieces out that other people had brought in, and I set them right next to the box. I picked up all of those, and I went and loaded them, and I completely forgot about what was in the box.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Are we talking about the same thing?
No.
I don't... That's all the movie 7. I don't know what you're singing.
Oh, yeah. It's been a while since I've seen the movie 7. I feel like we're done.
Anything else? Anything else for the day? It's still not jogging my brain. There was some point, but I can't. Yeah, it's whatever. It's past.
It probably wasn't important. That's what I say when I forget something. It must not have been important.
Nope, it was not.
Cool.
All right. So, Carlotta 823, reach out to me if you want to know anything about home studio. Or sign up for my class at Baker Hunt.
Yeah, do that.
Or another class at Baker Hunt.
Yeah.
Or other studios here in Cincinnati area, because there's plenty.
Yeah.
There are plenty. Yeah.
Hey.
It can get costly. I mean, there could be like booth rentals and stuff too. Do you see benefits between those two?
Booth rentals?
some places that have like booth rentals or like just where you just pay for like a space.
I mean,
there
yeah, because you still have that community as
versus
long
a
as you're getting
class.
out into the community and like talking to other people. Oh no, I'm gonna sneeze.
I think you may need to work harder to get that information if you just have your own space, because you may just be transplanted from your tiny studio space in your home to a tiny studio space at a place. And Becca is sneezing. She had this face like, I'm about to sneeze all over this.
And then it wouldn't come out, and I hate that. I hate when that happens. Okay, it's gone now.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely the class is going to benefit more than just transplanting a home studio to a community studio that, you still have flexibility there, but you basically added a commute and you added extra work to find someone to answer questions for you or whatever.
Hey, guess what? By the time this comes out, I'll probably be in Cincinnati.
What?
Yeah, because remember, I'm coming to visit.
Yes. I didn't know. I was going to mention that earlier, but I didn't know if you were going to. Well, you'll probably be there by the time we release this anyway, so.
I don't know, we'll see. Anyway.
Yeah, so you're coming to see Rachel, myself,
and your
my mom, and
I mean, I'm coming to see
we'll go to
you, but let's
Louisville.
be real here.
And yeah, it should be a good time. I think you'll be here for a week-ish between here and Louisville and Indianapolis. And
can I tell you something?
Yeah.
So we were planning this out, and I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if I could stop in Colorado and see my mom while I was going through, and then it just didn't.
And tell her you have a podcast.
I have a podcast, and it just. Oh, also, I've been posting these. Okay, remind me to come back, but I'm gonna take a quick tangent. I've been posting funny videos on Instagram with my new aprons that I have that are like really like sexy.
By the way, where the hell did you get those? I saw those and I commented. I'm like, did like a influencer, like, did you start getting like apron influencer?
No, I found them on Instagram. I was talking to somebody. I was like, that would be so funny. Oh no, I found them on Amazon. That's what it was. And so it's this lady in a bikini, and it's just an apron, and then there's like a shirtless man apron. And I posted it
with like a Speedo on.
Yeah, I posted it on my Facebook, and I was talking to my mom, and she goes, so, your posts have been really interesting recently. And I'm like getting hardcore judgment from my mom. And I'm like,
Are you talking about the Tumblr update one where you're like, hello, my name is whatever. What was it? Beverly or Beatrice? Beatrice.
Hello, my name is Beatrice. These are my cups. I would love for you to buy my cups.
I saw those and I was like, what the hell is she doing? Why did you... Plus you got the male one too.
I got the
and
male
I was
one
like,
too. Those are the best investment I've ever made in my life.
Honestly, you can never have enough aprons. I probably have like 5 aprons.
And there's so...
I keep one at Baker Hunt, and I keep like, I have
so
a glazing
much fun
apron.
to
I have
wear.
an apron that I throw the white clay with, and I have the apron that I sit at the other wheel with the red clay with. Like it's
great.
But
she was like hardcore judging me for my apron choices. I thought they were funny. Anyway, moving back, what were we talking about? Oh,
you're talking about stopping over in Colorado.
So we were planning on stopping in Colorado before I got to Cincinnati, and it turns out that it's not going to work out because it's like my mom's not worth the extra $100, and
it's more than that. But
and also there was like time and all these things. But then Ryan texted me, and you don't know this, Ryan. You text me and you're like, yeah, I guess you're just going to have to visit your mom another day. And I read it as, yeah, you're just going to have to visit my mom another day. And my heart sank. I was like, and I was like, what? Like, cause
you were like, what? That was the whole plan of the trip.
I mean, you're obviously the whole plan of the trip, but meeting your mom for the first time is really exciting. And I just, like, my whole heart sank, and then I read it again, and I was like, oh, my mom.
Wait, your heart didn't sink as much about not seeing
I
your
know
mom.
that sounds terrible. I'm not a terrible child. I promise. No, I just talk to her a lot. And I've met my mom.
I thought you were going to take that a different way. I thought you were going to talk about planning the trip to Colorado and that I gave you like a list of 8 different options of things that we could do with the flights to make it work in days. And,
he's like, just call me your personal travel agent.
Yeah, I'll just book all your travel. Oh.
Yeah, because I'm going.
Maybe we'll do a little podcast with my mom in person.
That'd be so much fun.
I don't know what the hell we'll talk about. And then you can fly to
Denver and we can do one with my mom in person, and then we'll tell her.
Be like, what the hell is this microphone for? What are we doing here? Mom, I'm here to tell you, this is going on my podcast.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. You know what I just remembered? I remembered the thing that I forgot.
What?
Earlier.
Yes! So good.
Okay, so the other thing I was going to say about the class time, besides the whole, hey, I need to commit to 3 hours at a class because it's my time on the schedule. Same for the teacher. The teacher is dedicated to those 3 hours that they are getting paid to focus on those students. So if you need to ask them questions, like that is their time dedicated to you. So you're going to get more valuable information and more focus than writing someone on Instagram or asking a question on a YouTube video or emailing someone. Yeah. Like I know for me, when I get questions randomly about cones or whatever, if it's short answer, I'll answer it in the moment. If it's not, it might be like, hey, this might be a topic for a podcast episode and I can't give them a direct answer, or you know, you can't go to the links to answer some questions because there's just too many coming at you. So they're your immediate resource in those times.
Also, don't bug your teacher not in class time. That's annoying AF.
I mean, I'm more than willing to give people answers and answer questions, and some of those, especially if it's on Instagram, like I have no issues with, you know, throwing that thing on hands-free and sending a video of me talking into the camera about it.
Yeah, that's easy.
Rather than writing something out, because you're gonna get more information in a short amount of time, and maybe it'll come across better because of the tone and the explanation, or I can show something. So that was the other thing I was going to say you're going to get with an instructor at a class.
Yeah, I definitely think that, I actually, when I went there, I was like, because I give my phone number to a lot of people, and a ton of questions. Like, if I get a ton of questions from somebody who's not been to the studio in a while, I'm like, come on, you know? Like, come into the studio, I'd rather just talk to you. Instead of, like, converse.
And it's hard, and for me, like, it's hard to, like, talk on the phone sometimes. Like, it's going to be inconvenient, or, I don't know. There's definitely a cost to context switching of answering questions. Like, they come at the most inopportune times, or I just don't want to be on Instagram for hours on end answering questions. True. And it's like, I'm more than happy to, but at some point it's diminishing and I can't get certain things done. So all right, that was what I needed to remember, and I think it was worth it to remember that. Maybe
I think it was.
All right, thanks everybody for listening.
That was fun.
And we'll have some live episodes at that when you're in person. Ooh.
What? Oh, you mean like in person?
We'll have some live episodes. Yeah. Maybe we can.
Can we have Rachel be involved in one too?
Maybe, yeah. You know what? Maybe I'll see if there's some local people that we
Paul
could get with.
Near you? Paul
no. Blaze?
Who's the guy that you've helped pack up? Who's that guy? That one. Allen?
He is. Yeah, there's a few potters locally that I'd like to talk to. And I think it would be more beneficial to have 3 of us in a room than have 2 of us in a room and then you on Skype.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Yay! Okay, cool.
All right, so maybe I'll get some of that going.
Yep.
All right, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it, and we're having so much fun. If you want to follow us individually on Instagram, you totally can. Ryan's Instagram handle is @RDCeramics, and mine is 5 Lines Pottery. That's the number 5. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to write us a review on our podcast. We read every single one of them, and we totally appreciate them. They help us out an awful lot, and they also put smiles on our faces. I hope you guys continue to listen, and we love you. Thanks. Bye.